Artash, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mariam. Great to be talking at this camp and this session. It's really encouraging to hear that so many high schoolers and middle schoolers are interested and passionate about pursuing ocean advocacy and ocean technology. So I'm really excited to be sharing a bit about my work as well as the Youth Leadership Council of Earth Echo. So I'm Artash. I am an incoming grade 12 student from Toronto, Canada. I'm currently in DC, as said by Mariam. So in 2021, I joined the Earth Echo Leadership Council. And the reason behind this is that I am very passionate about solving big problems in ocean sciences around the world. So, what is Earth Echo? Well, Earth Echo is a global movement and a nonprofit which focuses on bringing global youth voices to protect and restore our planet. And at the center of Earth Echo is the Earth Echo Youth Leadership Council, and or YLC. And the YLC combines around 12 students every year, both from the US and from countries all around the world, to provide a youth voice to Earth Echo's activities on educating young people all around the world. So, these countries range from several cities in the US, Canada, and all the way to Indonesia, which is really awesome because having a diverse group of voices when it comes to global issues is super important. So Earth Echo's programs are designed to educate young people around the world and bring a vision where everyone's backgrounds and opportunities and tool sets and skill sets can be brought together to create a larger movement. So one of the Youth Leadership Council's flagship programs is the Earth Echo Youth 30 by 30 program. And this program is designed to bring youth voices to the initiative to protect 30% of our oceans by 2030, primarily through marine protected areas and better policies. And through the YLC, we've reached over 20,000 youths from around the world from over 30 plus countries through these training programs, including the Earth Echo Water Challenge, which has collected over 1 million observations over the past decade. Another thing that the YLC does is working on restoration projects in their local communities. So since everyone is scattered around the world and everyone can undertake their own projects in their own areas. So some of these include, restoring habitats, mangrove planting, invasive species removal, and the planting of native species in new environments. The final pillar of Earth Echo and the YLC's work is on policy, which is really connecting back to what I'm passionate about as well, because I believe connecting technology and information to policy is the way to go for changing the way we do things. So last year, in fact, members of the Youth Leadership Council talked to members of Congress on ocean policy last year. So that was really cool. Finally, since the YLC's goal is oriented on youth leadership, the new program that has come up within the YLC is Gen C. So Gen C has over 1,200 members from over 100 countries. And Gen C provides a digital platform where young leaders working on oceans around the world can come together, get access to training resources, and really do more peer-to-peer collaboration and discussions. So that's what the YLC does in a nutshell. I'd really encourage you to check out the Earth Echo and the Youth Leadership Council website if you want more information on that. Now, I want to transition to a bit about the work that I do. Since this whole session is on technology and the SDGs, it aligns very well with my own work. I love using data and technology to solve big problems. And I want to give you guys a bit of a template on a project that I am doing that combines both of these subjects together and perhaps inspire you on ways that you can also use technology and information, as you're probably already doing in this course, to tackle policy and environmental issues. So the one that I focus on in my project is ocean noise pollution. So you must know how ships traverse the oceans to bring goods and cargo from different countries to another. In fact, shipping provides 80% of global trade by volume every year. And more ships are traversing the waters every year as the population increases. Why is this an issue? Well, apart from many environmental pollution factors created by ships, One of them that is often overlooked is ocean noise pollution. So the engines and the propellers on ships create underwater noise. Now, ships are the only underwater noise source in the water. There's also geophony, which is the natural sounds of the earth that you might hear, like rain, wind, and seismic activity on the seafloor also creates sounds underwater. And more importantly, biophony. So marine mammals like whales, fish, shrimp, and even certain aquatic species also use sound underwater. Next slide, please. We can move to the. So underwater noise from ships is rising every year. Unfortunately, this noise overlaps with the sounds that marine mammals like whales and dolphins use for communication, navigation, mating, and other activities. Because in the darkness of oceans, marine mammals cannot see very well. So sound becomes the primary way that marine mammals talk to each other and find food. So as more noise from ships is in the water, marine mammals have a harder time doing this, and this has increased the risk of collisions between marine mammals and ships. Now, entering the COVID-19 lockdowns. Unfortunately, as shipping noise rises every year, it's very hard to establish perhaps you could say a baseline of what underwater noise levels would look like without shipping. Now, this is why the COVID-19 pandemic provided an interesting opportunity. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, shipping traffic reduced significantly around the world, which means so less ships were in the water, and my hypothesis was that ocean noise would also have decreased. So I wanted to find a way to be able to monitor the effect that ships have on the underwater noise levels around the world. So to start about this, how can we measure ocean noise? Well, in my case, I turned to technology, specifically hydrophones. Hydrophones are like underwater microphones that can, hear or record underwater noise levels across the years. So I used 7 different hydrophones in my project from global observatories in the US, Canada, Europe, and even in Australia, so I could get a good geographical representation. You guys were talking about GIS data earlier. So, in all these projects, it's very important to get a global perspective, especially in oceans, since, oceans don't respect national boundaries. So we all need to be working together to be able to solve these issues. When looking at hydrophone data, there's a lot of steps that need to be taken in analyzing this data and extracting the noise created by shipping traffic. So these hydrophones sample recordings at a very, very high rate. So the first thing that I did was resample the hydrophone data to 2 kilohertz, which means I'll be able to analyze sound data up to 1000 hertz. Hertz is like the frequency of the sounds underwater. And ships create underwater noise at around 63 hertz. So I wanted to extract the underwater noise at the 63 hertz third octave band. Then, after resampling, I calculated long-term spectral averages, which allowed me to get the noise at different frequency levels across the year. I used other techniques, including data from wind buoys, to remove the effect that wind has on my data sets. And finally, I extracted the underwater noise created by ships in the lower frequency bands for over 25 years of data from 7 hydrophone stations. Throughout my project, I use several technology packages. Some of you, or a lot of you, probably know how to code in Python. So I did the entire analysis in Python itself. The code is available online. I'll get to that later as well. Pandas, Excel, Jupyter Notebooks, NumPy, SciPython, and I even use more visualization libraries to be able to make my analysis and data available to the general public. Calibration. So when looking at data from the environment and looking at data that occurs in the real world, one thing that you need to take into consideration is that natural and real world data is very, very noisy. So, there's a lot of things that you need to do to make sure your data is cleaned up and ready for analysis. In my case, I realized that wind also affected ocean noise levels, but I only wanted to look at the noise created by ships. So I had to work on different algorithms that I used to remove the effect that wind has on the data sets. So I did that by discarding certain days and certain time periods when winds were higher or lower than average. The main result I was able to pull from my project was that ocean noise did indeed decrease across all the stations in my study, which proved that slowing down ship traffic or a decreased level of shipping is an effective way to reduce underwater noise levels. So these noise decreases range from 7 decibels in Georgia Strait, which is up near Vancouver on the west coast of Canada, uh, down to 1 or 2 decibels in Monterey Bay in the Pacific Ocean side as well. Going back to the point that I mentioned earlier about shipping noise interfering with marine mammal calls, I was able to find the intersections of whale vocalization, dolphin vocalization, and shipping noise in the dataset. Um, I do have a short video where you can hear both the noise from marine mammals and from shipping. I'm not sure if sound is playable on this thing. Perhaps you could try. It's probably not.
Are
I
you
think when
able
you
to hear?
No, I think
Okay.
when you share, there's an option that says share with
Yeah.
sound, right?
Let me try again. Ooh. I think I might need to change my settings because I don't think it's going to share the audio.
Awesome. Yeah, great that the video was able to play. So yes, indeed, the shipping noise, as you can hear, is very loud, artificial, and jarring. And on the other hand, you could also hear the sounds from the marine mammals, specifically in this case, the dolphins. So dolphins use whistles to communicate with each other, since dolphins are very, very social creatures, as you may have heard. So it's very clear how this loud shipping noise can block, the communication between dolphins and overshadow these whistles. And that's why it's such a big problem. And looping back to how technology can be merged with environmental protection. So the big idea here would be how can we reduce the effect that ships have on the marine mammal communication? So you can't just come up with ideas and try to test them out. So you need a solid data and scientific evidence that shows that perhaps this method, perhaps less shipping or slower shipping can decrease noise. So in my case, I used the COVID-19 pandemic to show that reduced shipping traffic does indeed reduce shipping noise and can be an effective strategy to reduce the effect this has on marine mammals and help marine mammals regrow their populations. Go to the next slide. So to communicate my scientific evidence and results, I made a web app, monitormyocean.com, because research alone is not enough. Research needs to be connected to a wider audience and in such a way that everyone, policymakers, youths can understand what you're doing. So I've created the app, monitormyocean.com. Feel free to check it out, where I've made all my analysis available. And the app was also endorsed by the United Nations as a UN Ocean Decade activity. Going back to policy decisions, um, Now, my next goal and my ongoing work has been on using the data and analysis that I found in my project to talk to policymakers on how we can come up with better strategies to reduce underwater noise. And once we do have these strategies, how can I use my work and my website to make sure that these policies are working and reducing shipping noise? So another big problem is that hydrophones, the underwater microphones I used in my study, are not easy to maintain because they're expensive and need to be cabled to the bottom of the ocean floor. So one thing I'm also working on is crowdsourcing ocean noise monitoring. So creating cheaper hydrophones that citizen scientists and youths around the world can deploy in different regions. Like recently, I was talking to the 11th Hour Ocean Racing Team, which is a sailing team that races around the world in different races. And they go to very remote regions where deploying a hydrophone would be really useful. So I've been entering talks with different organizations. I've also been appointed to the International Quiet Ocean Working Group on low cost hydrophones, where I can join more ongoing discussions on making this data and making these tools available to everyone, not just in North America and Europe, but also in developing countries all around the world. Because as I said, ocean sciences and ocean preservation is a global issue that even disproportionately affects countries that have contributed less to ocean noise pollution. Um, I, I think this is the end of the presentation slides, right? Is there any other slides after this? Yes. So another thing you have to take into consideration is that, yes, all around the world, we have taken steps to greener energy. And this perhaps means electronic cars, electronic vehicles, solar and wind power. But at the same time, you need to look at this holistically. As we have more green energy, we also need more batteries. And more batteries means more metals like lithium, copper, nickel, and manganese. And unfortunately, we are running out of surface level uh, minerals for these batteries. And this has mounted a pressure on companies to look at deep sea mining, which means dredging the ocean floor for metal rich modules. And unfortunately, the UN and different organizations like the International Maritime Organization and the Seabed Authority have failed to come up with effective safeguards to either place a moratoria, which means stopping and halting deep sea mining until we have more scientific evidence about how it could affect ecosystems. Um, and perhaps even by next year, companies may start the continual exploring of the deep sea to mine different materials. And you can imagine if we have a big machine scraping the seafloor for minerals, that will definitely have a negative impact on marine mammal species and will also increase ocean noise. So I've been looking at different ways to deploy hydrophones and monitor ocean noise in these zones that have been targeted for deep sea mining. Uh, so that's the end of my presentation. I hope I was able to give you a good idea on how technology and data can play a role in environmental protection and showing policymakers and keeping policymakers accountable. I'd encourage you to read more on the Youth Leadership Council and Earth Echo website about more ocean advocacy, and check out my website, monitormyocean.com, for more information about my project. Thank you so much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.